SIGHTINGS.com. Heart and body extract for a long and healthy life.
It's hard to imagine when things are going reasonably well, just how quickly things can change. But what would it take? Economic collapse? Massive crop failure? Chemical or biological attack? So many situations could find you in the grocery looking to pick up food for your family only to find that the shelves are empty. There's nothing. Don't let that happen. Act today to make sure that if it ever comes to that, you and your family will be provided for. Visit freezedryguy.com to look at the wide variety of survival foods available. Freeze-dried foods from the Freeze Dry Guy store longer, rehydrate faster, are nutritionally superior to, and taste better than any other long-term storage food available. Visit freezedryguy.com or call toll-free 866-404-3663. freezedryguy.com.
Serving the planet. The Micro Effect. www.themicroeffect.com.
And welcome and good evening to everyone. As always, I bless you and thank you for being with us on this broadcast. And this is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino. And this evening we have an incredible guest lined up. His name is William ROEHLING, and you're going to hear an incredible tale of this man's journey through his experiences in life and of course the UFO phenomenon that is so prevalent now in our society. And what he's going to tell you, what you're going to experience, is simply out of this world. I know it because I've experienced it myself, and it's going to be phenomenal. So I want you all to join us for this broadcast. Right now, we have Paul Landris, our news correspondent with the news. So stick with us. We'll be right back after this.
With the Whole Agenda Radio Show. Broadcasting to you live on the Micro Effect Network. Pearl Harbor. The United States today marks the 70th anniversary of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor that catapulted the U.S. into World War II. About 120 survivors of the attack attended a ceremony today at Pearl Harbor in Pacific Island state of Hawaii. Some 3,000 people observed the event at a memorial structure straddling the sunken remains of the USS Arizona battleship. They held a moment of silence at 7:55 this morning, the exact moment Japan's Imperial Navy began the surprise attack. Memorial events marking the December 7, 1941 attack are being held throughout the U.S. with flags flying at half-mast to memorialize the dead. In a statement marking the day, U.S. President Barack Obama paid tribute to those who died, saying that their tenacity helped define the greatest generation. The attack by the Japanese on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor was unprovoked. 4 U.S. battleships sank and capsized. Several hundred warplanes were destroyed, and more than 2,400 servicemen, women, and civilians died. It was the most devastating foreign attack on U.S. soil since September 11, 2001. Many Americans draw a comparison between the attack on Pearl Harbor and the attacks in 2001. A spokesperson for the Pearl Harbor Navy Yard says the comparison keeps the memory of Pearl Harbor alive for a new generation. The U.S. declared war on Japan the day after Pearl Harbor was attacked. On December 11, 1941, Japan's Axis partners, Germany and Italy, declared war on the U.S., marking the nation's entry into the global conflict. TSA, 52-year-old TSA officer Harold Glenn Rodman was recently arrested and taken into custody for sexually assaulting a woman in his Manassas, Virginia neighborhood. Rodman was arrested on charges of sexual battery and abduction, all while wearing his TSA uniform and badge. Rodman abused his perceived position of power to illicitly take advantage of members of the public by flashing his badge while wearing his official uniform. Rodman was able to successfully lure at least one woman into his trap of malintent by pretending to do his job while off duty. He is in a position where people would pay more attention to him and maybe let him approach them, whereas maybe they wouldn't if he didn't have the uniform on. This, of course, is the same thing most air travelers do in airports across the U.S. every time they fly. Though it is illegal under the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to search individuals without reasonable suspicion or probable cause, millions of air travelers now allow TSA agents to grope their private parts and send them through cancer-causing naked body scanners because they believe these agents have the authority to do so. Edmund Burke, the famous Irish statesman who served in Great Britain's House of Commons, once said that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And as long as free individuals allow their overlords in government to trample their rights in the name of safety and security, those like Rodman will be empowered to follow by example and unleash their own forms of evil when given the opportunity. Fukushima. The problems of Fukushima are far from over, as the plant's owner, Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEPCO, announced recently that a purification mechanism has leaked at least 45 tons of highly radioactive water, some of which ended up flowing directly into the ocean. TEPCO officials are reportedly in the process of investigating the situation to determine the extent of the damage caused. According to information from TEPCO, a decontamination device that had been purifying radioactive cooling water sprung a leak, and that sent at least 45 tons of highly radioactive water outside the containment facility. Cracked concrete also allowed some of that water to leak into a gutter that drains directly into nearby ocean waters. Samples taken of the water surrounding the purification device revealed shockingly high levels of cesium-134 and 137. This amount of radiation is 270 times and 322 times higher, respectively, than the government's maximum safety thresholds. A report also explains that the water contained gamma radiation and beta radiation, both of which are damaging forms of ionizing radiation emitted from nuclear waste that can cause cell damage, leukemia, cancer, and various other severe health problems. The source of the beta radiation in the water is likely to include strontium-90, which, if absorbed in the body through eating tainted seaweed or fish, it accumulates in the bone and can cause cancer. Data gathered around that strontium levels in the water are as high as 1 million times the government's maximum safety threshold. Phoenix, Arizona. The company behind Snowbar Alcoholic Frozen Treats, its products are headed to Arizona liquor stores. Spokesperson for Snowbar said the products will not be sold in regular stores, but will be in Phoenix area Total Wine liquor stores by the end of the week. He said the idea for alcoholic treats came to the company's founder one night while drinking and eating ice cream. She said margarita pops are made with premium tequila, lime, triple sec, while the Cosmopolitan pops include vodka, triple sec, and cranberry juice. Tastes exactly like the cocktail, and I've had them, and they're really good, and they get you buzzed, she says. But make sure your kids don't get them and keep them in a special spot in your freezer. That will be hard to do. Mythbusters. A cannonball fired by TV's Mythbusters team during an experiment soared through a California house but didn't injure anyone. People working on the Discovery Channel show Tuesday launched the cannonball from a bomb range in Dublin. It's about 35 miles east of San Francisco, expecting it to hit a target made of trash cans. Instead, the cannonball zipped through a house some 700 yards away, leaving a 10-inch hole in the bedroom wall as the homeowner slept, then struck the roof of another house, and then bounced across 4 lanes of traffic before finally crashing through the window of a parked minivan. No injuries were reported. The LA Times newspaper said the show was researching whether materials other than cannonballs are effective weapons when fired from a cannon. There was no word on whether the show stars Jamie and Adam were part of the incident. And then finally, today's proverb. Never take life seriously because nobody gets out alive anyway. Well, that's it for me tonight. It's been Paul Landis for the Whole Agenda Radio Show. Robert will be right up with tonight's special guest. Thank you and good night.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show, and I'm your host, Robert Pepino. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a very incredible guest this evening. His name is William ROEHLING. William ROEHLING has been seeing and being watched by UFOs since he was of the age of 8 years old. William's father had worked for NASA Ames Research Center at Moffett Field Naval Air Force Station in Sunnyvale, California, in the early 1960s, along with his uncle Harry, who was a top administrator for NASA Ames in Sunnyvale, California also. You're going to be shocked to hear what his father told him, and his uncle verified before his father died. William will tell you about several very close encounters he experienced where his life in La Selva Beach, California, remains now. And William, welcome and thank you for being on this program.
You're welcome, Rob.
And it's very nice to have you here. And I got to tell you, I'm elated to have you here because of your story and your experience. And I know that there are a lot of talk show hosts who have a difficult time with dealing with what you have to tell people, but the reality of things are the reality of things. Whether people want to believe them is entirely up to them. Everybody has their experiences, they're personal, and each one of us has to take those experiences in, go through them, sift through them, and understand them as I guess as I'm trying to describe this is like when you're learning things in school in a classroom. Not everything's going to be real. Not everything is going to be the truth to you, because everybody's going to see something in a certain way a little different. And in this reality, things are going to be very, very different for people to understand exactly what they're going to hear tonight. And I welcome it because, as I've mentioned on this show many times, the reason it's called The Whole Agenda is because we are trying to bring forth the truth that everybody has experienced in their life. Whether that person accepts it or not is entirely up to them. The reality is that what you experience is a personal experience. What I experience is a personal experience, so on and so forth. The gravity of what you have to offer to people is verified. And that's the real reality to all this. So I want to thank you and I bless you for being on this program, William. Let's just go ahead and go right into this. Let's start at the very beginning, how this all came about for you.
Well, Rob, this kind of goes back to my childhood. And I basically, in my profile story that I send to most people that join my YouTube channel, I basically started out as telling them that when I was between 8 and 10 years old, this is what as far as I can remember back, I had basically forgotten about these experiences. I put them away, but when I started going to UFO conferences, I started hearing people speaking of their abduction experiences and how what would happen to them. And when I started hearing these stories, it brought back all these memories that I had hidden away that kind of scared me when I was a child. And basically, some of those were, I was an insomniac. I couldn't sleep, and I used to lay awake all night and be terrified. I could hear everything in the house. And I started off, I used to hear things. I was very, very sensitive, and I could hear everything moving around in the house, every little creak and crack. And I used to hear things coming into my room. I could hear things walking very, very softly and slowly. And when you feel things coming up to you, close to your body, your face, you can detect these things. And I used to lay there in terror, just laying there with my eyes squeezed shut. I could feel something coming up to me. And as it did, I could feel them stand on my bed or push on my bed, little feet. And they would put their face or their hand up next to my face, and I'd be out. And that's what would happen over and over again. I would hear these things come in my room, and I'd be laying there terrified. I never saw them. I could have my eyes squeezed shut in terror, hoping they didn't know I was awake. And once they put their face to my face, I would be out. And this happened many, many times when I was younger. And eventually I forgot about it. But I can't say it was a really negative experience considering what I've heard, the other stories I've heard, because I never saw anything. I never remembered going anywhere, but just the experiences of them coming in was enough to have me put it out of my mind. But later on in life, a few years later, I would remember walking home from school, and I'd be hiking in the forest behind my house in the creeks. I'd see in the sky, I'd always see these little metallic things in the sky, real high around the clouds, and I used to look up and they'd go back in the clouds, and I started getting the feeling that they were watching me. And of course that concerned and worried me, and I would run home and tell my father, who would get home from work, and at that time he was working for Ames NASA research in Sunnyvale in security. And of course he would just say, don't worry about it, forget about it, just go to your homework. And this happened many, many times. And so I just got used to this happening and seeing these things, but they always frightened me and scared me. And later on, I guess I forgot about them. I just didn't notice them or pay attention to them anymore. And when I turned 16, my father had long left NASA. He was only there for about 2 years working in security. And he was a tough Wisconsin detective who didn't believe in anything. And we moved out here because my uncle, I guess, had got him a job at NASA. And anyway, when my father was there, when I was 16, he sat me down one evening. He said, now that you're 16, I want to tell you something. You're going to be the man someday, and I'm not going to be around. Don't ask me why, but I'm just telling you, I need you to know a few things. And I could get myself into deep trouble telling you this, but this is what happened. When he started working there, a couple of the guards had told him that they had an actual UFO, a flying saucer there. And, of course, he didn't believe anything like that. This is in 1960. And it actually changed his life. He couldn't believe it. He was absolutely shocked when they told him that. They said they had a flying disc down there. So eventually someone showed him a picture of what it was, and it was a perfect silver 30-foot in diameter flying disc.
And these are the things that you were seeing as a child?
I guess, yeah. They were so high in the sky, I would just look up and I'd see them poke back inside the clouds. Sometimes they were gray, sometimes they were silver, shiny, sometimes they were light. But I always had the feeling that they were following me because I used to see them and they'd go back into hiding like they didn't want me to see them. It was very, very odd. And so said that eventually he got to see a picture of one of them, and he saw the disc, and then they told him that they actually found this. There was something in it when they found it also, and he saw a picture of what was inside of it, and there were 4 dead beings that were inside of it. And he said, basically, he did try not to explain too much of that to me because he didn't want to frighten me, but he said there were 4 little things, and basically what I found out, there were two little grays and 2 little troll-looking, strange little troll things. They were short, little, wide-faced. They were all hairy, like little gorilla-looking things. It's hard to describe what he.
Well, you know,
but I got more out of my mother later on in life about it.
Well, William, I want to stop you right there because Whitley Strieber, when he wrote his book, he described almost the same type beings. They're the gray type aliens with the large heads, but there were the little. He described them as little squatty. He described them as little squatty blue beings, I guess is the word to use here, because at least that's what was portrayed in the movie that they made about his experience.
You know, that kind of resonates also when he was trying not to be too descriptive, but he was saying that they had a bluish-greenish look to them. A couple of them did. So that makes a lot of sense. That's quite amazing to hear. And I actually was telling this story to a group when I was at the 2009 UFO Congress in Laughlin, and there was a young lady out there who was standing next to me while I was telling the story to another person, and she dropped her soda and gasped and stood back a few steps and said, "Oh my God, those are the same ones. Those are the same ones that used to come and get me." And I was really quite surprised. And she said, "I can't believe it. Finally, someone's talking about my experience. I can't believe it." And then, you know, I finished telling the story, so I kind of repeated it so she could hear it again too. But she was elated that I had brought up something that only she knew, and she'd only shared with a few people in her life, and it really helped her out. You know, having someone acknowledge something she had experienced that most people can't comprehend or even will accept or listen to. But eventually, my father, he said that eventually he befriended a few of the people, the research scientists there also, and he had a chance to see it eventually. They had it stored underground in one of the underground hangars, and they acquired this. I guess he said it was found in Canada in the 1930s, and Canada obviously was an ally with the United States in the military, and they gave it to us because we had an expertise, I guess, in this field. And eventually, when NASA was created, they acquired it over in Moffett Field. And he told me a quick story about all the security it took to get it over there and down the freeways, and the security was supposed to be quite a deal, even though it wasn't such a big, you know, craft in retrospect to what they are now. It was a big deal. So anyway, he eventually got to see it. He was down in one of these underground hangars. When you're in security, I guess you kind of get to go everywhere, you know, and you're trusted. And so he had this chance. And so when he was down there, before he saw it, the scientist said that, you know, this is something that you got to keep to yourself, and I can get me in a lot of trouble, but you are security, so come on down here. And he got to see it. He said it was a perfect 30-foot flat silver disc, like 2 plates glued together. And he said that the interesting part is it wasn't sitting on the ground. It was levitated. It was floating, and that really took him back. And,
so it was never sitting on the ground. It was just levitating.
No, he said it was levitated a few feet off the ground.
Wow.
And
wow.
It was just every moment he was numb. He said he was white. His hair was standing up, and his life was changing before him just seeing this. And he said it was so shiny and silver. He said it looked like it was liquid mercury. He said it looked like it was wet, like it was mercury. He could stick his finger in it, but obviously it was a shell. It was hard. And he said it looked like it was a shell with liquid metal under it. He said that was the appearance it gave to him, and it was just amazing looking. There was no seams or anything on it. It was just a beautiful disc. And he said, and so he said that this scientist. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, William. Could he see any seams or any type of joints or riveting or any type of bolting of any kind?
No, he said it was absolutely smooth, just smooth. No seams, no nothing. It was a smooth disc.
Like it was molded that way.
Like it was molded that way.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah. One thing I left out, he said when they found it in Canada, they said they found it stuck in mud, like dropping a coin in mud and have it stuck. It was just stuck straight up. Not damaged, just stuck straight up. And I guess that's pretty lucky. I guess I've heard about it, quite a few damaged ones, but this was not damaged from what I understand.
And Bill, let me ask you this: when did they say they retrieved this craft? I'm sorry, because I think I missed that part.
1930s.
So this was all about the same time that the Roswell incident took place.
Yeah, that was earlier than Roswell.
Right, but because Roswell was 47, this was the 1930s, but 30s, 30-ish, 35, 37, I'm not real sure. But it seems like, and I've heard this story many times, that within that era there were multiple crashes of multiple crafts that were taken down somehow, or we had maybe at that time the ability through the so-called radar systems of our time that interfered with their navigations, and that's why some of these craft came down. But personally, I don't believe that story. What I would say is that because the Tesla technology was much more advanced at that time than anybody really knew, I think that the radar systems that were developed at the time were maybe designed to take down these crafts because they already knew that they were in our atmosphere, and this government in particular wanted to advance themselves, of course, without us, because if they were advancing themselves with us right now, we'd be in a much different place. But to take them down to explore advanced technology for themselves, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm sure we acquired most of our technologies, at least the seeds of our technologies through all these crafts that they acquired through the whatever means they used to get them down. But eventually, like I said, he was down there, and the scientist told him that, it says, this is how we can show you and explain a man-made craft from a extraterrestrial craft. There was a door, a seam. He didn't see it, but it opened. He doesn't know what the guy did, but a hatch opened up. I don't know which way opened and closed, but it opened up. And there was no seam anywhere, yet it opened up, and which was really, really amazing to him also. And he said this was the shocker. He said it was a 30-foot disc. He said, now this is how you tell it, man-made from ET. He looked inside. It was 100 feet in diameter inside. It was a different reality, complete different dimension.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I mean, just, okay, the only thing I compare it to right at this point is I'm thinking, remember the old episodes of Doctor Who where he'd walk into a phone booth? But as he walked into a phone booth and was like the size of a building. That's the only thing, the only comparison I can make right now, because that's absolutely extraordinary. Yeah,
it was quite a mind blower. You can only imagine what went through his head. And it was huge. It was huge inside. You look on the outside, look on the inside. It just can just distort your whole reality of everything on Earth from what you've learned when you look at this. And he said, and on the inside, there was nothing in it. It was bare. There were no handles, levers, wheels, buttons, lights, windows, anything. It was completely empty inside, except for nothing for that a human would need to travel in space or even across the country. other than 4 little seats that were around a central pillar or some type of a panel or pillar that they were around, and with 4 seats.
William, I want to stop you right there because we're coming up a break, and this is just the way this story is unfolding is really, really incredible. And there's a couple of questions I want to ask you after the break, because this is so absolutely amazing to me and astonishing and wonderful. But everybody, this is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and you are listening to William Rawling, and you're going to hear the rest of the story in just a moment. So everybody stick with us. We'll be back right after this break.
Last thing the men behind the curtain want is a conscious, informed public capable of critical thinking, which is why a continually fraudulent zeitgeist is output via religion, the mass media, and the educational system. They seek to keep you in a distracted, naive bubble, and they are doing a damn good job of it.
President Bush signed a formal agreement that will end the United States as we know it, and he took the step without approval from either the U.S. Congress or the people of the United States.
Bought a few bottles of heart and body extract and have to say that it certainly does work.
That's what Jack from Michigan had to say after his experience with heart pain and what he did to treat it with heart and body extract.
I actually had a huge heart flutter. I was also having some edema around my ankles and very worrisome clot in my right leg that would happen from time to time. I was trying to sleep.
Heart and body extract is all natural with no negative side effects. It will help repair or correct past problems associated with the heart and body circulation.
After my second bottle of heart and body extract, all problems are now gone.
Order at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
I ordered a third bottle of heart and body extract for maintenance as I want to keep everything working.
Order Heart and Body Extract at 866-295-5305 or hbextract.com. Heart and Body Extract for a long and healthy life.
It's hard to imagine when things are going reasonably well, just how quickly things can change. But what would it take? Economic collapse? Massive crop failure? Chemical or biological attack? So many situations could find you in the grocery looking to pick up food for your family only to find that the shelves are empty. There's nothing. Don't let that happen. Act today to make sure that if it ever comes to that, you and your family will be provided. Hydrate faster, are nutritionally superior to, and taste better than any other long-term storage food available. Visit freezedryguy.com or call toll-free 866-404-3663. freezedryguy.com.
Serving the planet. The Micro Effect. www.themicroeffect.com.
And welcome back, everybody. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino. And if you're just joining us now, we have been speaking with William ROEHLING, who at the age of 8 years old was having experiences and contact with UFOs and extraterrestrials. And at that time, his father was working for NASA's Ames Research Center as part of the security in Sunnyvale, California, as well as his uncle, who had worked for NASA Ames in Sunnyvale, California. And what he is explaining now is the crafts that his father and uncle were talking to him about, which they weren't even actually supposed to be talking about. They were breaking national security oaths at the time, speaking to him in regards to what they had seen. And William, please continue with your story. This is just incredibly fascinating.
Okay, Rob, real fast, tell me something.
Yes.
Can you hear me better now?
I can hear you terrific. I've been able to hear you terrific since we started the show.
Oh, this isn't any better like this.
It's actually perfect. There's been no interference of any kind.
Okay, I'm going to stick like this right now. This might be easier to hear me.
Okay.
Let me clarify something real fast. My uncle never told me any of these stories. He basically verified it through a conversation later on after my father passed away.
My apologies. My apologies for that.
It was my father's story, and I just want to clarify that. Anyway, we go back to the inside of it, and there were 4 small seats that were around the central pillar. And he said there was a panel that came out that he said that they put their hands on, a panel they put their hands on, and there was also a band that went on their heads. And that's all he told me about the inside of it. There was also, he said, there was an upper room inside the craft that he didn't get to see. He didn't get to go inside it. He was looking inside of it from peering on the inside of it. And he said in the upper room in this craft, there was a holographic map room. And he said there were bumps. It was hard to understand what he was trying to describe, but he said there were bumps on the wall or on a panel that you would wave your hands over a certain bumps, and these holographic maps of star systems would just appear as if you were standing in the stars. And he said they explained to him that it was such a vast library of star systems, it took the scientists that were working on it 3 years to find a star system that they recognized. It was that vast. And what was explained to him also was these beings would sit in the chairs and these little seats, and they would put their hands on these panels, and I guess a band would go on their head, and a star map would come up of wherever they're going, and the craft would jump. It would just jump from one place to another. And
so it was almost. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Bill. So it was a thought process that, because in my mind, that thought is the fastest form of travel, and I believe Philip Corso actually ran across the same thing.
Did he? Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with Philip Corso, but he was the retired general who was given and taken these certain items from the UFO, the Roswell crash back in '47, who he basically distributed to non-governmental agencies to see how they can develop these technologies. So I find that incredible, actually, because you're bringing up the very, very same thing here, and that I guess that would coincide and would corroborate what Philip Corso said.
A lot of similarities. It's amazing.
Yes.
So he said there were a lot of other things he could have told me, but he was afraid, and he said maybe later on he'd tell me more. He never did share with me anymore. But after my father passed away, I did go to see my uncle, and he was the kind of guy I never talked about much. He was an amazing man. His house was like a space museum with technology and just wondrous, amazing pictures and devices everywhere. And I tried to tell him the story, and as he was the kind of guy you had to walk around and follow him because he was always running around doing stuff. His mind was really active. He was a highly intelligent, brilliant man. And after I told him my story, and he stopped, and he turned around, and he says, "Sit down for a minute." He says, "I loved your father." He says, he was a very intelligent, honest man who was a police officer, and I really looked up to him, and says, "I would never disbelieve what he would say, would you?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, why would you then?" He gave me a wink and patted me on the shoulder, said, "I got to run. I'll see you later." And that's all I needed to see from him and hear from him, because he was a very secretive man. He never talked about much around us, but that's all I needed to hear from him. And I knew it was the truth anyway, but just to see him do that and give me an acknowledgement, that's all I needed. And so that's basically what I learned when I was 16. And later on, things went on. I used to see things. I could never get enough of UFOs and the paranormal. And I also, my family bloodline, my uncle, he was there in the inception of the space program, and he was there throughout, I guess, the mid-'70s, late '70s, and he did a lot of research there, and thought being an administrator, he was involved in the research and engineering of parts and the tiles in the space shuttle, and I read some other things about parts for the space station. He was part of it from the inception. Also, my mother was involved in NASA also. So there's three people here. My mother was in the original group of 19 females being tested for the space shuttle for females in space, flying in space in the space shuttle program. So she also went through a several-month course being tested for the space shuttle. And I was working at the time. I wasn't around, but I used to hear stories. She would tell me stories about, basically, they were putting them through everything astronauts go through when they're being prepared to become astronauts, through the centrifuges and the rooms and the vacuum chambers when you're in water and the foods and all that. But it was interesting that all three of them were all tied in with it. And I learned things later on that we'll get into later from the universe. They basically told me about the bloodline and that also. And it's quite an amazing thing how it's all come together. And this ties into to why everything has happened to me throughout my life also. But later on, and I'm going to zoom right up to 2005.
Okay. Yeah.
I was driving. I was working in San Francisco for a company and working on a ship, doing some electrical work. And I was down here in La Selva Beach, which is down in the Monterey Bay area. And one evening, I stayed the weekend at my house in La Selva Beach. And Sunday night, I was driving back. This was in November of 2005. I was driving back to San Francisco because I had to work the next morning. And as I was driving on Highway 280 behind Stanford University in Palo Alto, I was driving north on 280, going by the Stanford Linear Accelerator, where they do all the nuclear research and atom research. And as I was driving, my windows were down, and this is the crazy thing. Out of nowhere, these two little orb, I don't know how to describe them. They were little balls, the size of golf balls, a twin pair of, they look furry. They're dark brown, almost black, furry little golf ball-sized things, yet they glowed in the middle. If you can imagine, these twin little atom-looking orb things, they flew in my window, and they hit me in my left temple, passed through my head, and popped out my right temple, and shot out my driver, the passenger window. And this happened in a matter of a second. It was bang. And, of course, I'm going like 80 miles an hour with my windows open. I'm like, whoa, it just happened. It didn't hurt me, but it was shocking that it happened. It was fast, boom, like being shot from a gun, but nothing happened to me. And I put my hand up on my head, and I touched my temple. I'm like, what the heck was that?
Well, Bill, I want to interject this real quick. It's like if you've ever been in a car accident, when it happens, everything seems like it's slow motion, yet it's happening very quickly, and it's over in an instant. But to us, being the participant in that that accident, it seems like it takes forever to happen.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
So I can definitely equate that to that experience. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it all happened in slow motion. And I could see the things coming in my window. It's as if they came out of another dimensional window right next to my truck as I'm speeding down the highway. And they hit me in the head, popped out, went out the other window, and right away I hit my windows and rolled them all up as I'm cruising down the highway. And I'm thinking, what was that? What was that? And at that moment, it felt like there was a tube going from my left temple to my right temple. And energy, they left this energy in my head. This amazing cosmic energy. That's the only way I can describe it. It started searing and buzzing and burning, but it wasn't a bad burn, but it felt like it, but there was no pain. And it was building, and it was sizzling and searing and buzzing and vibrating, and it was getting stronger and stronger, and I'm driving, the whole time I'm driving thinking, what am I going to do? Should I pull over? Am I going to pass out? But it didn't hurt. As a matter of fact, it felt kind of nice. And I was laughing and in shock at the same time as I'm driving. And the feeling of them hitting my temple was as soft as a baby's bottom touching your skin. It was so soft. And popping out the other side the same way. The whole experience was indescribable. But this energy, to describe this energy is you would take a long piece of say, mink fur, a long strip of mink fur, you hold it against your eyes with your left hand, and with your right hand you pull the strip across. The soft feeling of that sliding across your face, that beautiful soft feeling, times 1,000 is what it felt like.
Wow.
And it was building and building. So it was an amazing feeling, but it was shocking and scary at the same time. And it was building and building, and I thought, when is this going to stop? It just kept getting more and more, and my ears were starting to vibrate as they're starting to now. Whenever I speak of it, these feelings come back.
So you got the intensity, and it repeats itself when you talk about it. That's got to be just the ultimate experience.
Yeah, it's hard to describe. It's hard for people to believe, and every time I tell it to someone, their eyes are wide open, and they kind of walk away scratching their head.
Well, I can tell you this, that and I know that you are friends with Alma Guthrie. And
what am I going to do? Am I going to?
Oh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay. You were just bringing up something that the experience I had Monday night was incredible, and if I can,
tell me about it.
Just interrupt into your story, because your story is incredible. But what I experienced Monday night was nothing but short of incredible. After I finished doing the program with Alma, and what I had stated, going through my list of questions, but at the end I just kind of went off the cuff because I was just so enthralled and enthused and elated with what I was experiencing at that time. It's hard to describe it in words because it's feeling, not as much as word. But when I was at the very end, when I was talking to Ekan, was the young extraterrestrial that I was having conversation with, and I felt this overwhelming feeling of passion, love, enlightenment at that time. After the show was over, I had gone inside the house, and I was speaking with my mother, actually, because she listens to the show. She's such a good listener, and I love her because she's on the same wavelength as I am. But I'd gone inside the house, and we were just quickly talking about the show, and I'd walked back outside. Now you got to understand, it's, even though I live in Phoenix right now, it's 35 degrees out as we speak, and I walked back outside, and this fragrance, this aroma, hit me like a tidal wave. The only way I can describe this is like the sweetest bouquet of flowers put together. So sweet, it was overwhelming, that hit me as I'm outside and I'm smelling this, and I looked to my mother and I said, "Mom," I said, "come outside. You have to smell this. This is incredible." And as I'm smelling this, I'm stepping back, and just over the roof line of the house, I see a craft. And it was an incredible craft. All the lights of different colors were changing as I'm smelling this. Okay, and and it's all happening at the same time. This overwhelming feeling of enlightenment and just a euphoric feeling is, I guess, the best way I can describe it at this point. And I'm watching this craft, and it was like a sign to me that this is very real, what you're experiencing. This is not some made up baloney that somebody is trying to trying to pull the wool over somebody else's eyes. This is as real can get, William. That's why I believe exactly what you're saying. And going back to what you're saying, and then of course what I brought up earlier with this 47 Roswell crash, all of it makes sense. It's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer to me. Why and what the reasons they are here right now, and I think it's really a guiding process through the turmoil we're facing right now.
Yeah, exactly. It all interconnects. And many experiences have a lot of similarities when it gets down to this fact. But as I pull up in front of my apartment, thinking, what am I going to do? Who am I going to tell? No one's going to believe me. Even if I told my roommates, great roommates, my twin brothers Larry and Barry, I was going to, if I told them about UFOs, they'd go, "Oh, interesting." But I couldn't tell anybody about this, but I wanted to. I need to share it with someone. Anyway, I pull up in front of my apartment thinking, what am I going to do? As this super high frequency buzzing and cheering is going on in my head, and I get out of my truck, and I go around the other side, open my door to grab my stuff. What happened? One of them flew out of my truck and flew up into the sky. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. There was one still in my truck, and I had no idea. I thought they flew out my windows, and I thought, my God, if I could have caught this thing, could have proved it and shown it to the world, blah, blah, blah. And so that evening, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't sleep all night. And I thought about telling my roommates in the morning, but I got up pretty early, and I thought, well, I'm just going to have to keep myself. All the while, this energy is just buzzing in my head. And I go down to my truck to throw my stuff in my truck to go to work, and I open my door. What happens? The other one flies out. This is daylight now.
That's incredible.
I could have started crying. I thought, oh my God, who would ever think? I saw them fly out. I thought they flew out, but they were with me. And so the other one flew out. Looked like a bird flying away. There was a man jogging by. He kind of looked at me like, well, a bird flew out of your truck. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and got in my truck and sat there for a minute and almost cried. I thought, my God, I could have shown this to the world. But, well, I figured, well, I'm going to have to keep this myself because who's going to believe me, And so that day when I went to work, I was working, doing a few things, and I was standing on a wall, an 8-foot wall, and behind me, below, was a bunch of shrapnel and girders and metallic pieces sticking up, broken pieces of cement. I mean, I fallen backwards, and something happened, and I lost my balance, and I tried to grab a fence, and I grabbed someone's jacket instead, and I lost my balance, and I started falling backwards. And as I was past the point of no return, I knew I was dead. As I was falling backwards, my feet, one foot was still on the ledge. Something stopped me, and stopped me in midair, and pushed me back up softly, back to my balance. And I was shocked. And
that must have been indescribable at that point to me. I would have been like, okay, this is realer than real can get.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy. I looked down. One of my coworkers down there next to one of the pipes, working on a pipe. He's looking at me. He goes, "How did you do that?" I just said, "I don't know. I have no idea." And he just shook his head and says, "Man, that was amazing. I just just walked away, and I didn't know what to think. It was just crazy. But eventually, I had an accident on the job. I slipped and fell off a ladder and hurt my hip, and I went on workman's comp. But I got to get to this part where that evening when that happened to me, when those things went through my head, after that evening, I started seeing these lights in the sky. I used to see them. It's like they were following me. They'd stop when I'd look up, but I knew they were following me. And sometimes I'd see them take off, dart off. And I kept looking up thinking, this is starting over again, just like when I was a teenager. And at that time, I had no idea what was going on, but I started trying to tell family about it. And of course, they looked at me, they knew I was into the UFO stuff, but this was far and beyond anything anybody could ever comprehend. And I was talking to people on the internet, talking to researchers, trying to get anybody's idea if they'd ever heard of anything like this happening to anyone. And of course, no one had. They'd look at me like I was crazy. And these are UFO researchers looking at me like I'm crazy. So this is really far out there. And it was starting to get pretty depressing, actually. And I didn't know what to do, but I had to tell someone about this. And eventually, I ran into someone in the internet. I ran into a brand new technology called night vision ufology. And this gentleman by the name of Ed Grimsley.
Yeah, Ed, he's on this program all the time.
Yeah. And when I saw a video about him and his work, I mean, that was a revelation again. It was amazing that what the stuff did. And I started researching the guy right away. I thought, this is the greatest thing in the world. I mean, you can actually see these things in the sky with night vision, with military-grade night vision. And the guy is very brave because I found his phone number, and he has his phone number listed with this stuff. And so I got through to him a few days later, and he was nice enough to talk and listen to me. I told him my story. He's the first guy that ever sat and listened to my whole story. And after I finished my story, he said, Bill, this is amazing. He says, I have a friend I need you to speak to. He says, I'm going to get a hold of him, and his name is Jose Escamilla. And Jose is one of the guys I was trying to find to speak about this because he's the guy that discovered rods and all these amazing new little creatures that no one had ever heard of.
Right.
And so probably half an hour later, Jose called me. Jose said, William. I said, hey. He said, hey, my name is Jose Escamilla. He says, my God, tell me your story. I said, Ed just told me a story. He says, I am in shock. Please tell me the story. So this was very exciting for me to tell someone this amazing story. So I told him everything that had happened to me, and he goes, William. He says, you wouldn't believe it. I am absolutely on the edge of my seat right now. He says, William, I just finished making a movie, and these things are in my movie. These exact same creatures, and this was the greatest thing ever to me, hearing this out of someone other than them looking at me like I'm absolutely nuts. And he said, these things are called critters. They're EBEs, ethereal biological entities. And there's a scientist by the name of TJC, Trevor James Constable. He researched these things for many, many years with the government and other research programs. I believe NASA, too. I can't quite remember everything right now, but he researched these for quite a long time. And basically, these things are everywhere. They're everywhere in the sky, in the upper atmosphere. They're in the oceans. And they come in various shapes and forms, and we don't see them. They're mostly hidden because they usually exude infrared light, which we cannot see.
Right.
And I have learned since then that these things, they are basically ethereal cleaners. They are everywhere. They clean the skies. They clean the oceans. They are here for one purpose, is to clean. And basically, the tether incident.
Very, very much so. Bill, can we hold it right there because we're coming up on a break, and I want to get into the tether incident. And actually, I've been trying to get a hold of David Sarita. It's been very difficult to get a hold of him because he profoundly studied the whole tether incident, and it was incredible. But everybody, stick with us. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Papino, and you're listening to William Roehling, and we'll be right back after this break.
last thing the men behind the curtain want is a conscious, informed public capable of critical thinking, which is why a continually fraudulent zeitgeist is output via religion, the mass media, and the educational system. They seek to keep you in a distracted, naive bubble, and they are doing a damn good job of it.
President Bush signed a formal agreement that will end the United States as we know it. And he took the step without approval from either the U.S. Congress or the people of the United States.
I have bought a few bottles of heart and body extract and have to say that it certainly does work.
That's what Jack from Michigan had to say after his experience with heart pain and what he did to treat it with heart and body extract.
I actually had a huge heart flutter. I was also having some edema around my ankles and very worrisome clot in my right leg that would happen from time to time. I was trying to sleep.
Heart and body extract is all natural with no negative side effects. It will help repair or correct past problems associated with the heart and body circulation.
After my second bottle of heart and body extract, all problems are now gone.
Order at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
I ordered a third bottle of heart and body extract for maintenance as I want to keep everything working.
Order Heart and Body Extract at 866-295-5305 or hbextract.com. Heart and Body Extract for a long and healthy life.
To imagine when things are going reasonably well, just how quickly things can change. But what would it take? Economic collapse? Massive crop failure? Chemical or biological attack? So many situations could find you in the grocery looking to pick up food for your family only to find that the shelves are empty. There's nothing. Don't let that happen. Act today to make sure that if it ever comes to that, you and your family will be provided for. Visit freezedryguy.com to look at the wide variety of survival foods available. Freeze-dried foods from the Freeze Dry Guy store longer, rehydrate faster, are nutritionally superior to, and taste better than any other long-term storage food available. Visit freezedryguy.com or call toll-free 866-404-3663. freezedryguy.com.
Serving the planet, the micro effect. www.themicroeffect.com.
Everybody, this is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino. If you're just joining us now, we are talking with William ROEHLING, whose father had worked for NASA Ames Research Center at the Moffett Field Naval Air Force Station in Sunnyvale, California, in the early 1960s, along with his uncle Harry, who was a top administrator, for NASA Ames in Sunnyvale, California. And the information that he's talking about now, it's basically been suppressed for a very long time because of the gravity of what is being talked about here in the factual sense that this is a tangible thing, just like Roswell and the Russian event that took place, and the of Tunguska, and the Ketchwell case that took place in Pennsylvania. This is just more reality being brought forward that everybody needs to be aware of. And the reality is that these crafts and beings are all around us. They're here to guide us and help us, in my opinion, to transcend what we are experiencing now into the next level of experience for humanity. And Bill, please continue where we left off.
Okay, well, we were talking about the EBEs and the tether instance. These EBEs are highly advanced and evolved interdimensional, shape-shifting, morphing ethereal entity beings. They've been around, who knows, forever, and they're part of the universe and creation, and because we, who knows how long we've been around, but it goes into trillions of years. I know that for a fact, and the first thing I ever saw of EBEs to the public were involved with the tether incident, which was that video that came out with the space shuttle when they lit off that satellite. They
right,
right,
the STS incidences, yes.
Mm-hmm. And when that tether broke, that big 12-mile-long electrical cord, basically like a telephone line, is snapped off and started traveling back like a telephone cord does. And as that thing did, these new cameras that they have hooked up to the space shuttle, which were infrared and ultraviolet, from what I understand, the new ultraviolet spectrum cameras, they picked up these creatures, and it looked like a tide pool with all kinds of different fish, all kinds of different life. And these things were swarming around this cable, looking at it as if it was something new, something to play with. They're mystified, to see this thing floating in space. And of course, the whole world was looking at this video, thinking, "What are these things?" They're all different size, shapes, and forms, and some of them looked like UFOs, some looked like flying saucers. The other ones had strange shapes, but a lot of them were the EBEs, and some of them, I guess, were little UFOs too, and orbs and whatever else. But there's so much life out there beyond what we can see with our eyes. It's more life out there than it is down here on Earth. It's just amazing what's out there, but it's all being suppressed from us and kept away, and not spoken of. But luckily for the internet, we're able to see what is going on out there. Anyway, eventually Trevor James Constable, I got to meet him. He's a scientist that studied these, and he wrote a book all about these EBEs, and the book was called The Cosmic Pulse of Life, and it's one of the most amazing, mind-expanding books I'd ever read about the ethereal world and everything we can't see. And it basically explains life in the universe and what UFOs are, and what everything is connected in space and Earth, and how we're all interconnected throughout the universe with life. And it's an amazing book, and it'll open up anyone's eyes about the truth. And he said they cohabitate with extraterrestrial races. They cohabitate with other UFOs. Some UFOs that we see in the sky are actually these EBEs. They can take on any shape or form. Like I said, they shape-shift. They're morphers. And they light up like light. If they want, they can let you see them if they want, or if not, they just disappear. And they're cleaners. They're actual cleaners. And the way to find them is usually going out into the desert with infrared cameras and just taking pictures, infrared pictures. And then when you develop the film, these things can show up. And they're just amazing. There's amazing stories about them in his book also. And I finally had a chance to meet Trevor and at one of Jose Escamilla's movie premieres. And very, very quiet man, very private, and very standoffish. Didn't want to talk much, but as I started telling him about my experience, his eyes opened up, and he said, "Oh yes, those are the EBEs. They're amazing, aren't they?" I said, "Wow." I said, I'd never met anybody that had ever had an experience like this. And I just basically asked him, "What do you think? Why do you think this happened to me?" And he says, I don't know. He says, they know what they're doing. He said, they're smart, and they obviously picked you for a reason, and whatever that reason is, hold on to your pants, because you're going to go for a ride, because these things are too far advanced to make a mistake, so they did it purposely. And like I said, after that night, I started seeing things in the sky, and they seemed to be following me. And I eventually was able to get a pair of night vision goggles from Ed. I purchased a pair a little bit later on, and I started looking up in the sky, and these things were around my house. They used to hang out over my house. You would look up and think there were stars everywhere in the lower sky, but there are these EBEs. And I thought they were just all orbs at that time because of the things that went through my head. And I started looking at them with the night vision, studying them, and I would look at one, and it would just take off and go across the sky, and it would stop. Then another one would take off, and I'd follow that. And I didn't realize at the time they were moving around, getting me used to them. And I eventually started speaking to them. I'm by myself. No one could hear me, so I'd say hi. Then they'd start dancing around, acting like they knew me, like they were excited. They heard me. And I thought, no, this can't be true. And I'd speak to them again, and they'd move around, and they'd acknowledge me. And, of course, no one would believe that. And I started telling a few people about it, and they didn't believe me. So I just studied them for a while until I was able to get a camera. And during that time, they would come down closer. And the more I'd speak to them, the more they'd come down and get close to me. I'm talking about maybe the closest they come is maybe a couple hundred yards. And but the amazing thing is when I could feel them. I could literally feel their energy, and the energy would come back in my head, and it would go throughout my body. This ethereal energy that was that they left in my head. And when I would speak to them with respect and love and respect, I could feel them, and when I'd speak to them with this love and respect, they would glow like giving me back this amazing love. And it's hard to understand for anybody or even comprehend unless you've experienced it. But I would receive back what I'd give to them, and when they would do that, this energy would come back to me also. And it was a beautiful feeling in your body when this energy would come back. And so, of course, I started speaking to them all the time, and they'd get all excited and blow up and power up. They call it powering up, or they'd pulse light down at me, and I would get the same feeling back. Eventually, I got a camera, and I was able to start recording them and showing people these things. And they were far off for a while, and they started getting closer and closer. And when you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see the evolution of how they got closer and closer, and would listen to me more and more, and they'd get excited and power up, and they were just amazing. And through time, I started noticing that there were crafts too, different sized crafts, or a big one would have a small one following it. Little probes would come out of it and spin around and take off.
But Bill, can I ask you this? I don't mean to interrupt, but I mean, looking at these crafts, you must have been just in awe of what you were seeing. I know I would have been just totally enamored with what I was just witnessing physically. Did those crafts? Did you see orbs around those crafts at that time?
I would see them. I would rarely catch them on film, but it's like they would do it when, you know the saying, you see the best stuff before you get the camera up there?
Yes.
These things come out of the craft, and as I start to record them, they'd disappear. But I would still get the crafts. And I always see the greatest things before I could ever hit the camera. And my greatest experiences are the ones that weren't captured on camera. But I eventually started getting better and better shots of these things. And eventually I got my YouTube channel set up and started broadcasting them. And thanks to Ed Grimsley, like I said, I was able to get this technology to show people. Yet, these things, you can see them with a normal video camera, but with the night vision, it really shows so much more of their energy waves around them, and you can spot them easier. It doesn't mean that they're invisible and you can't see them other than with night vision. But the smaller ones, you can see them from farther off, and as they get close, they they're just clear to see. And there are some, true, that are just infrared light, and you can't see them without the night vision. So the night vision kind of covered all fields. And I eventually got this special camera hooked up to it, and I'm not able to take the camera off and record them without the night vision. I have a special setup where I can only record in night vision. That's why people say, how come you don't get them from on both day and night, or with and without? I can't do it. That's all I have. So I just focused on this particular field and recorded them. But as time went on, they just got closer and closer to me, and they just started interacting more and more. And everybody, people I talk to that live in the area, they still don't believe it. They try not to talk about it. They don't believe it. But everything is right here. And, Ed started taking me out to conferences with him and introducing me to people. And the first, the 2009 UFO Congress, I took one of my first really good shots. It was called The Amazing Light. That's what it's named in my YouTube channel. And one of them was coming across the sky one night, and I'd be talking to it, asking it to do something for me. It wasn't doing anything as it's going across. It was maybe a mile high, and eventually I said, brother, please, do something for me. If not, I'm going to turn my camera off. And then this thing lit up so bright, it lit the whole sky up. It was amazing. I was shocked how bright it got. And this particular shot I took with me when I went to the UFO Congress that year, and Jaime Maussan saw it, and he just said, holy caramba, I've never seen anything like this. Jaime, he has one of the biggest paranormal television shows on the planet called Tercer Milenio out of Mexico City.
Very familiar with it.
Yes, and he interviewed me for about an hour and a half, and he was amazed. He said, I've never seen anything like this in my life. I've never seen anything react and interact with a human. And he saw other videos I had, but this is the one he focused on. And of course, at the International UFO Congress, he's the star of the show every year, and he always brings a whole battery of new sightings that have never been seen in the world, and he releases them there first before he shows the rest of the world these things. And that particular year, he asked me if he spliced this particular video in with his presentation to the UFO Congress, to the press and everything, and showed them this, and that was pretty exciting for him to acknowledge me and to show people that this is the real thing. These are real. And this is how it all started going. And of course, Ed, he's the father of night vision ufology, and he has been showing the world this stuff. And so we together started doing sky watches at these conferences and other small conferences. And when we would go out and do this, he has he used to have I think he just still has lots of other pairs of these, and people would come out, and he was out there to enlighten the world, to show the people that everything is real, and with night vision, everybody can experience this. There isn't anybody that cannot experience seeing a craft one way or another with enough time. And we haven't had one time where it was a dead night. I mean, we always were able to enlighten everybody that came out to see with these things. And so, for some reason, they were really attracted to me, and people started noticing that they could see me glow. My head, they said, your head, you kind of glow around your head. And certain people would say this, and most people can't see it. They'd say, my goodness, look at you kind of glow. And later I found out that they see this light. I have this bright light around me, whether it was natural or it came from when these things went through me. But they see this light, and this is what they were attracted to me, and this is what would bring them down out of the sky. And jumping way ahead here, this is where the story really gets interesting. I went to a small conference in San Diego, California, this last year. This year actually in May, I believe. And Ed was a speaker, and he took me with him to speak at this small church, the Swedenborg Church in San Diego. And I took one of my videos with me called the Ruby Red UFO'S. 3 of them had come out of the sky 3 nights in a row, came down over me and lit up the whole area as I spoke to them. They were ruby red, and they were just beautiful. And I started speaking to the audience, and I showed them I told them my experience, first of all, what happened, why these things come to me, and I showed them the video. And And there was a young lady, her name was Alma Guthrie. Her name is Atma, and she's the head of the San Diego UFO Society. You spoke to her a couple days ago on your show.
Yes, and it was incredible.
And yeah, she's quite a woman. She's amazing. And she gave me her card and told me a few things and said that she had seen a picture of me, a drawing of me. She had a drawing of me from one of her psychic drawings from many years before, and I thought that was amazing. She said, it looks just like you. And at that conference, a few other people came up and gave me similar stories that they saw my profile in the clouds, or they had a vision and something came to them and told them to come and listen to me. And not only Ed, I mean, Ed, everybody came to listen to Ed, but they came up and told me these amazing stories, and they got things on the internet saying, listen to this guy, he's going to speak about UFOs. So anyway, it was an amazing time that they told me this. And eventually I went back down there again, and this is the end of July. And Alma, her San Diego UFO Society, they had a small conference, big meeting, whatever we want to call it. And Ed and I were the guest speakers. And so that particular weekend, it was a Saturday and a Sunday night, and Ed and I did 2 sky watches that night up in the hills in San Diego. And the first night Ed and I were up there, we were on our own with about 50 other people that showed up. And there is a set of UFOs that I see continuously. They visit me, and I've never seen them on the internet, and they always show up when I ask to see them, which is the most amazing thing ever, to have these crafts show up when I speak to them or I ask for them. They would show up within a minute or a few minutes or a half hour, but they'd always seem to show up. Out of maybe 60 times I've asked to see them, 55 times they've shown up. And I've recorded them many times, and I have them recorded on my videos also. They're called The Amazing Twins, and they're a pair of twin UFO craft, and at various heights whenever I see them. And anyway, this evening, when we're up there in San Diego in the hills, people say, hey, Bill, call the twins. And of course, I thought, oh my God, I don't want to do this. If they don't show up, people are going to think I'm crazy, and no one will ever believe me again. So as the people walked away, I went off and I spoke to this guy. I said, please, my friends, please show up for me. I need you. And within a minute, pow, there they were. And the whole audience, everybody goes, oh, look at that. These huge craft. They were very high in the sky, but they're twin crafts. And some people will say, oh, those are the Navy satellite, twin satellites. There's 3 of them or 2 of them. They're always up in the sky, but these are different. They are not the satellites. And I have a lot of people attacking us, Ed and I, saying they're satellites because they look similar to satellites on night vision. And anyway, these were the twins. And
yeah, but they don't move like satellites, that's for sure.
No, they don't. When you witness them yourself, they don't move like satellites. But on video, they look similar. And if anybody has never experienced them, they will just automatically stick with those are satellites. And we see satellites, but these night vision have no, I have no zoom on them at all. All you see is 1-to-1 when I'm looking up in the sky. And satellites, they start off at 150 miles, up to 850 miles in the sky. And these satellites aren't very big. They're only a couple feet to 18, 19 feet from the largest ones, from what I understand. And to see them that far away, it is crazy to think that these big objects that are over me are satellites. And so anyway, these things showed up, and this is the first time I ever really got a really strong telepathic sign from them. They didn't speak to me, but I got this beautiful message of we're over you, we're with you always, we're protecting you, we're watching over you.
Bill, was this the first time that you actually received a psychic message from them?
Well, I had one previous one to that, and that was by the twins also, and that was the video called the Amazing Twins Power Up. That particular night, they powered up and lit the sky up. and they were close together. They looked like a big figure 8, and they gave me the biggest warm feeling of love and spirituality and oneness with the universe I had ever felt. I felt like I was part of them, and it was a revelation and a religious experience. It was amazing, and
a real epiphany, I would say. Absolutely.
If you had witnessed it yourself, you would have been in tears. I mean, I just stood there numb. If you listen and watch the video, you hear me just saying, "Oh my God, oh, I love you too. Thank you. I understand," because I kept saying, "I understand."
Well, I got to tell you, Bill, I've already had requests through Skype of getting your video links. I've already sent them out.
Good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Because the name of my site is crazy and it's hard to even describe. It's better just to pull up my name, Google my name, then you can go right to my YouTube videos. But that was truly the biggest experience of my life when they powered up that night. And they basically said the same thing as then, is we're with you, you're significant, you are everything to us, we're a part of you, we are you, you are us, and all will be revealed. And that's all I ever really could get out of. All would be revealed.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
To all the skeptics out there, what would you say to them? Okay, because I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate right here. Okay, because see, you don't have to convince me because I already know and I believe. But I'm going to say to everyone listening in this audience who say that maybe he's making this up, he's a fraud, whatever. What would you say to them to try not to convince them, but to make them understand that there's an exterior reality to what is this physical plane that we believe to be this realistic thing that we live in right now?
You know, it's very difficult for people to comprehend this, and they have to really experience it. They have to truly experience it. You know, I get some people hitting me with negative stuff, and not as many as I would ever expect. A lot of people believe this, but I also tell them that I send them my story. I said, read my story, read my entire story first, find out why I do this and why I'm saying what I'm saying, and why I react and speak to them the way I do. And after you read my entire profile story, whatever you say after that, I respect you. You know, I'm only asking you to open your mind and read what I have to say first. Read my story, and then after that, you know, whatever you say is your freedom of choice, and whatever your true beliefs are. And from that point on, like I said, everything changed. And that evening was amazing. And Ed saw him. Everybody saw them. And there were a couple of young gentlemen in the audience that actually came with us up there. And they didn't believe. They were joking and laughing and knocking each other, UFOs. And one of those kids had an out-of-body experience. I guess an entity came into his body through one of the ships and gave a message to Ed about the amazing job that Ed's doing, how he's fulfilling a job on Earth to help enlighten mankind. And he is also one of the really recognized people in the universe that is getting the word out to the masses here through his own form of disclosure. And it was amazing to hear this kid talk about it. The kid started crying as we were driving home telling us about it. But he first said the first amazing thing of the evening was seeing the twins. He says, those weren't satellites. Those were amazing craft. And I felt them. It changed me. He said, it absolutely changed me. And then, you know, he's laying down looking up at the sky, and this other experience happened. And Ed, you know, after Ed heard this, Ed just said, you know, this is the third time this happened just recently. This is happening to him more and more. They're following him around and trying to give him this message that what he's doing is right. Try to get other people, train people to do this, and get the word out and get more people doing what he's doing, because what he's doing is a good job, and he's doing the right thing. And we all are doing our own parts. You are, I am. We're all doing different parts of the puzzle, but they're all interconnected, and we're all adding to the consciousness, to opening the minds and reconnecting people, letting them know that there is life in the universe, and we are just a small piece of it. And Atma Guthrie, her UFO society. And that evening after that, we went up to do another sky watch. And during that sky watch, people were saying, get the twins. And, of course, I was terrified. I didn't want to do it because what if they didn't show up like before? They did that a few times.
Sure, of course.
And I went out from the parking lot by myself, and I asked for them, and bang, there they were. And it was just, not the feeling that went over my body that they showed up again.
It must have been a shuddering feeling at that point. I can relate to what you're saying because of what I went through the other night, Bill. It's not something you can put into words. It's only something you can experience mentally and physically, but it's very difficult to describe in words. And so I understand that completely. But listen, we're coming up on a break here right now. So I want everybody to stick with us. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and you've been listening to William Rawling with an extraordinary story. Everybody stick with us. We'll be right back after the break.
Last thing the men behind the curtain want is a conscious, informed public capable of critical thinking, which is why a continually fraudulent zeitgeist is output via religion, the mass media, and the educational system. They seek to keep you in a distracted, naive bubble, and they are doing a damn good job of it.
President Bush signed a formal agreement that will end the United States as we know it. And he took the step without approval from either the U.S. Congress or the people of the United States.
Bought a few bottles of heart and body extract and have to say that it certainly does work.
That's what Jack from Michigan had to say. His experience with heart pain and what he did to treat it with heart and body extract.
I actually had a huge heart flutter. Also having some very worrisome clot in my right leg that would happen from time to time. I was trying to sleep.
Heart and body extract is all natural with no negative side effects. It will help repair or correct past problems associated with the heart and body circulation.
After my second bottle of heart and body extract, all problems are now gone.
Order at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
I ordered a third bottle of heart and body extract for maintenance.
Long and healthy life.
It's hard to imagine when things are going reasonably well, just how quickly things can change. But what would it take? Economic collapse, massive crop failure, chemical or biological attack? So many situations. There's nothing. Don't let that happen. Act today to make sure that if it ever comes to that, you and your family will be provided for. Visit freezedryguy.com to look at the wide variety of survival foods available. Freeze-dried foods from the Freeze Dry Guy store longer, rehydrate faster, are nutritionally superior to, and taste better than any other long-term storage food available. Visit freezedryguy.com or call toll-free 866-404-3663. FreezeDryGuy.com.
Serving the planet. The Micro Effect. www.themicroeffect.com.
welcome back, everybody. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and if you're just joining us now, this is the last half hour of the show, and you've been listening to William Roehling, whose father basically worked at NASA Ames Research Center as as part of the security system, and was told a great deal of information in regards to the UFOs, and then later on, well, earlier in his life, was having experience, but then later on in his life went through many experiences, which was basically confirmed through his uncle by his father in regards to the extraterrestrial presence on this planet. And Bill, I got to tell you, what you were talking about with Ed Grimsley, and what you have been talking about, Ed Grimsley, and the night vision goggle viewings is quite incredible. And actually, I have a special surprise for you because I have Ed on the line with us right now.
Hello. Hey, hi, Bill. How you doing?
Doing good. How you doing, buddy?
I thought I'd bring Ed on to share this story that you're so profoundly talking about, because people need to realize that what is taking place is realer than real. I know what I experienced on Monday night it was so profound for me that it's hard to describe in words. The only thing I can say is you have to experience it for yourself. I wish that every individual on this planet could experience or will experience at some point what I went through. And Ed, because I started the show, this is such a new show that we're trying to get you out here in Phoenix to do the night vision goggle viewing. It's going to take a little more time, but we're still working on that. And of course, you're always my guest host on Friday night, and I still want to pursue that and make it happen, because it's important for people to realize that it's not a hoax, it's not a fake, it's not something that whimsically people are just coming up. Oh yeah, there's alien craft, there's abductions. This is real research done by real people who have spent their put their blood, sweat, and tears into this research to let people be aware of what is really happening on this planet and the reality of what we're going through right now, gentlemen.
Well, it's all real. There's no doubt about it. And what happened to you on Monday night? I didn't get to hear that part.
Well, you didn't get to hear it, but I will tell you this right now. With Alma on the show, speaking through the extraterrestrial beings that she was channeling, at the end, it touched me beyond belief, Ed, in my reality, that the fact that I was speaking to Econ, the youngest ET at the time, but as young as she may be, she's much older and wiser than any one of us probably are on this planet. And I told her towards the end, because I was so filled with emotion, I was elated with joy and filled with emotion, said, I cannot wait for the day that I can put my arms around you physically, hold you, and give my love to you. And she basically said to me, you will have that chance. It's just a matter of time. And I almost broke down in tears. And just to let this audience know that I was so choked up, I almost broke down in tears. But I didn't, because this is still a show and it has to go forward. And I'm getting choked up about it now, talking about this. But it was an overwhelming feeling and sensation. But what happened afterwards, Ed, was this. That I had gone inside, I left the studio, gone inside the house, spoke to my mother in regards to what had just taken place, and she was listening to the whole show, and she was just enamored, in awe of what had taken place. And I walked back outside briefly, and I had there was this aroma, this smell that was incredible. It was so sweet, an overwhelming sweetness, bouquet of flowers. It was I don't even know how to describe how effervescent this aroma was, and was all around me. And as I'm smelling this, and I'm calling to my mother, I said, "Mom, you come out here. You've got to smell this. This is incredible." I look up just above the roof line of the house, and I see their craft, one of many craft. And I say, do you see that? You see that? She goes, I see that, and I smell this. I said, "Mom, this is incredible. This is a sign that to let me know that this wasn't this is not an illusion. This is not a fabrication of anybody's mind. This is real as real can get." And Ed, I'm telling you, it was extraordinary. I've never experienced anything like this in my life. And William and I had this had a conversation earlier, a personal conversation about what took place, and it was extraordinary. And this has changed my life. This has been a revolutionary change in my life after experiencing this on Monday night.
Did you get an area lit up around you?
No, I didn't get an area lit up around me, but it was the smell, through the senses of smell. It was an incredible thing. I never smelt anything like this in my life, and it surrounded me. I was walking in almost a circular pattern, just absorbing this fragrance that was in the air, and that's when I saw the craft. And the craft was illuminated, and it was changing colors. It was an incredible experience, Ed.
Well,
it was incredible.
I know what you're talking about. And congratulations. They must like you.
And that's what Bill said, and that's exactly what he said earlier, that I've been blessed. And Bill, please continue where we left off. I'm so sorry, but I felt that strongly that Ed join us because of where you had gone with the conversation.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Nice to have him here. Anyway, we go back to that night, that second night when we saw the second visitation of the amazing twins, the twin crafts. And right after that visitation again, I didn't receive any telepathic message from that evening. But momentarily after that, Alma, who was there with her friend James, approached me. Alma's also my fiance, and at the time she was not, but she approached me and she said, "William," she says, "I've got a message for you. I just received a message, and I don't know what it means, but the message is, it was La Selva, Northeast Pi Square." And I thought, what in the world does that mean? I said, "Thank you so much, but what does it mean?" She says, "I have no idea." But I said, "Well, one of the interesting facts is I live in La Selva Beach, which resonates very clearly with me. And northeast is usually where I see them in the sky. They usually are coming out of the northeast sky or going into the northeast sky. But sometimes they're going different areas. But I see a lot of activity in the northeast sky. And Pi Square, we had no idea. So she asked around, and people were coming up with different ideas, but we really never did get clarity on that. But all I could think about was the northeast sky and La Selva. So eventually, after the conference, when I got home on Monday night, I usually do my skywalks about 9:30 at night. It was like almost midnight. I ran outside with my equipment, with my video. And each one blinked, each one powered up left and right, and basically I got a beautiful feeling from them again, which basically they were just saying that they came full circle. They're with me always. They follow me, they protect me, they watch over me, and there was no coincidence. They were with me, and they followed me, and that's where they were. So that was an amazing experience. And so later on, I spoke with Alma a few days later after that and told her of my experience and what had happened, and she thought that was amazing also. And eventually, her and I started speaking more and more after the experience. There was something that was going on between us, and I didn't know what it was, but there was an attraction. But she spoke of things that I spoke of. It's as if we both knew what each other were thinking, and she understood what I understood about the universe and our experiences. And as the more we talked, the more we found out how much we had in common. It was amazing how much our life experiences that happened the same, and the same parallels. And even when we were young, even non-paranormal experiences, they were all in parallel. And as you know, she's a cosmic channeler and a universal channeler, and she told me that she had a channeling, and speaking through her, some information came through, but she didn't tell the audience, the people that were there at the time, what it was. But she said that one of the entities spoke through her, one of the cosmic beings spoke through her and told her that we were both universal beings, and we are here for the first time. We are incarnated on Earth during this time in human history, and we came here for a purpose and a mission, and the missions will be beginning in the very near future. And we both were twin lights, and I had heard the term before, twin lights, twin flames, but I didn't quite understand what it meant. But we all emit this amazing universal light, this God light, some people call it. And to find a matching twin flame, twin light, is almost impossible. It's one in a billion. And the universe had guided us together to meet and to get to know each other. And from there, we just started receiving more information about our past and our past incarnations and about each other. And so it was the beginning of an amazing friendship. And a while later, she gave me another channeling. She said she received another channeling, and they spoke of me again. And she called me and told me that one day she told me to go outside, that I was supposed to go outside about 4:30 in the afternoon to look up into the northeast sky again. So I did that. It was foggy. I went back in and called her, and she said, well, wait for a few minutes, 20 minutes, go back out. I went back out. The sky was clear. And I looked up in the northeast sky, and there was a cloud formation. This was the crazy thing. Was there all this crazy stuff? There was a cloud formation of a human torso in the sky, and I was stunned. I looked up, and there's this human torso of a body with arms and a head, and a chemtrail plane, the chemtrails along smoke trails, going through, passing right through the head of this cloud formation. And I thought, my God, look at this. And I stood there and looked at it for about 4 minutes. Then I thought, oh, shit, I have to tell someone. I told my mother to come outside to look at this. And she looks up. She goes, isn't that odd? Look at that. Isn't that odd? I said, yeah. I said, it looks like a body with a trail going through it. And then I go, oh, my God, it's breaking. I got to record this. But my night vision doesn't work during the day. But I took my night vision out anyway. And I recorded it with night vision during the day with my hands over the lens, trying to catch some of it. And I have it on film. I'm going to post it. But the cloud formation was starting to break up, but you can clearly see a torso with arms. And anyway, this smoke trail went right through the head. And she said there's a second part of the channeling. My Alma told me to go out in the evening. So I went out in the evening at a certain time and looked up, and there were the twins in the sky. The twins appeared again, flashed both back and forth, and they disappeared. And it all suddenly came to me that they were trying to tell me it was them that made those orbs pass through my head. The twins are representation of the orbs that went through my head. And they showed me in the sky the trail going through my head. It was them that did it. And they initiated it, and they guided them through for a purpose and a reason. And this was a revelation. This changed everything. This got my thinking different, and this is where our connection, her and I's connection, really got strong. And we started speaking more and more and finding how much we had in common and how beautiful she is as a spiritual being and a beautiful person. And later on, she received another channeling and clarified the orb that went through my head. And basically what it was this is what I have written in my bio. I recently found out through respected telepathic trance communicator Alma Guthrie, who received several channel messages from the Galactic Federation of Light and Free Planets. And this is whom she speaks for, that the EBEs that passed through my head and deposited their ethereal energies in me did it as a cosmic activation. They did it to activate all my senses in my body, my crown chakra, my telepathic third eye, my telepathic throat, all my systems. And this is when things really started taking off, and the universe started giving me more channelings. And I got to skip down, way down here, because this is really, really amazing stuff. The twins that passed through my head, the Galactic Federation of Light and Free Planets, the council members, mostly Juno, who usually speaks for them, had told me that this was done because I am now a broadcasting unit. They created me to broadcast like a television station, a transmitter. I am the transmitter. They are actually experiencing life through my eyes and ears. Everything I see and experience of significance, they see and experience. And this is one of the reasons why they started following me around and hanging over me, is because my telepathic powers are very, very strong. And they tell me this continuously, that I'm a very strong telepath. And they use me to experience life down here of significance, and what I'm doing in my disclosure efforts, and what I do to help people and guide people through my experiences and through the internet and
Bill, that's spiritual eyes.
Yes, you can call it that.
And spiritual mind.
Yes, and so this is what they do, and this is the reason the twins follow me around. Also, they are command ships for the Galactic Federation, and some of them are part of the Ashtar Command, some of them part of other forces, all part of the Benevolent Brotherhood of Free Planets, and they are all interconnected and all here. They all watch over us, and they're helping guide us and assist us here on Earth. They've always been here, and they've always been helping us through all our trials and tribulations. And they're here now, and they're protecting us through a lot of the negative forces that are happening here and out in the universe. And
Bill, I just wanted to say this, that the reality is that, people get latched onto, there's one certain race here, whoever it may be. It may be the Pleiadians, it may be the Andromedans, but the reality is that there are hundreds of different species that have been watching and following and helping us along through this evolutionary path. And that's the thing, don't get stuck on the idea that it is one benevolent race or malevolent race in that fact, that's helping us walk through the path of our evolution.
Yes, it's amazing how busy the universe really is. And all this information has been kept from us throughout our lives for many, many, many reasons. It's mostly for control of the masses, control of the race and the souls of people for malevolent reasons. And the elite, the power elite, who hoard the money and the resources, and through that control our lives for every facet of it. And basically, the universe brought Alma and I together because we are twin flames, and they have a mission. They have plans for us for doing our missions of higher purpose, to help guide mankind through a lot of the coming trials and tribulations, to help man evolve and reconnect with the universal consciousness that we all came here with since we were born, that we all lost. And we're basically here to help guide and help reconnect people with the truth, with creation, with everything that is the truth and love and light of freedom of choice and free will. And this is all part of what we were created for and what we're here on Earth for. And like I said, the Galactic Federation of Light and Free Planets is the body that we are connected with, because there are many, many federations, many confederations, and there are a lot of people representing different federations, claiming to be the answers and to be the saviors, and there's a lot of malevolent forces, a lot of Luciferian forces claiming to be the light, speaking light words, but hiding, the truth and trying to take control of the human race.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%, Bill. And we're coming up at the end of the show. We have a couple minutes left. Any last-minute thoughts?
This is just the beginning, and
I know.
My life is just starting over again, and it stepped up a shot. And her and I have plans, and the universe has plans for us, and they're just beginning. And it's all of love and light to help the human race evolve, become one species, become brothers and sisters again. We're all one human race. We're one humanity. We are not all, unfortunately, we're all broken up into countries and religions and colors and sizes and shapes. But we're all one humanity. We've all interbred. We're pieces of DNA of many master races, mostly the Pleiadian. But we're all together here to live and experience and learn and evolve into a higher.
And we all have souls.
Yes, this is what we came here with, our souls. And many are here.
And that's what they don't have, and that's why they want ours.
That's what it's basically getting down to. It's the war over our souls, and it's a hard thing for most to comprehend. But the more we look into it, the more we're finding out, and it's all right there in front of us. Every day is a learning experience for me, and thank God for Alma, who's helped guide me and helped open my eyes to this through the universe. She changed my life forever, and my life has never been more happy and more beautiful than right now. And like I said, this is just the beginning of my story. The next time we speak, we'll get deeper into this.
Absolutely, absolutely. She's also changed my life. And Ed, I want to thank you for coming on the last half hour of this, because I know that you and William are so close in the terrestrial sense, but also in the outer body subconscious sense. And I always appreciate you. And William, you're an incredible man with an incredible story. I know it goes much, much deeper than this, but I want to thank you very, very much for being on this broadcast. Ed, I want to thank you for coming on last minute, and we're going to have to do this again. Unfortunately, 2 hours is just such a short amount of time. But I want to thank you both. My pleasure, Rob. Anytime. I appreciate it, and Ed, I appreciate you as always. And I will see you the following weekend, I believe.
Yes, that'll be fine.
All right.
And just remember, to all the audience out there, the things you heard tonight are true. They're true, and you need to find out.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right. So, as always,
I look up in the sky all the time. You'll start seeing things you never thought were there. They're all there down there.
Bill, well said. And again, I want to thank the both of you. And Bill, your story is incredible, and Ed, your story is always incredible. This has been the Whole Agenda Radio Show, and by the way, tomorrow evening we're going to have a rebroadcast for Thursday and Friday because I will be out of town, but I look forward to being with you on Monday evening, so I want everybody to have a wonderful and safe week. Take care of yourselves, and I bless you all, and we'll see you the following Monday. Take care of yourselves. Good night. Bye-bye.
I have bought a few